Chapter 4. Ghosts, of course. Reports started coming up from the Brass Legion. The party had hired a bunch of soldiers of fortune to institute some kind of order in the town. It was mostly a bunch of abusive bullies, but better to have the bullies on your side. That Saltspitarians, or Saltspitanes, or Saltspitooners, we hadn't quite managed to agree on which one it should be, I like Saltspitooners, were being found dead on their beds by the numbers. Initially, this was attributed to disease, which in the festering pit of brothels and alehouses that Saltspit had turned into, counted till almost 3,000 inhabitants, seemed reasonable. But as these became more and more regular, Rakim and Valinar decided to make further investigations. As it turned out, people found dead didn't appear to show any signs of fatal diseases, murder or anything like that, except for the fact that their hair, eyes, and skin were white as milk. This, in conjunction with the fact that every single person died while screaming horribly, led to the widespread rumours of ghosts and other malign entities haunting Saltspit. As if things weren't bad already, Imam Salim al-Salam, caretaker of the local temple of Sarenrae, as people began flocking into Saltspit, religion came along. Sarenrae, the Sun Orchid, is the main goddess in the region. A few other cults have also set foot here, but only that of Sarenrae has a temple already built. Began preaching that these deaths were the cause of the excessive greed and avarice with which the owners of the mine had been chasing material wealth, sacrificing countless lives in the process. The preaching became more and more incendiary as deaths multiplied, and by the end of the month the makeshift cemetery outside of town counted over 80 dead bodies from what came to be known as the White Woes. Dealing with a progressively more scared workforce, several workers had stopped going to the mines altogether. That's the problem with paid employees. A string of inexplicable deaths and a very likely outbreak of religious fury, the party decided to take things more seriously. Using their contacts from the Church of Desna, Hassan still hadn't repaid what he stole from them, by the way. The party hired a couple of exorcists to find out what was going on. As some of the previous comments have indicated, Valinar was suspecting some kind of ghost or spirit that came from the ethereal plane. Yet the exorcists found nothing of sorts, even after covering the settlement with all kinds of ghost-sensitive holy water vials and some other items of dubious effectiveness. Still, during that night they heard the same horrible screams reported earlier, and rushed to see what was going on. As it turned out, a homeless man was the one screaming, and they found him literally trying to gouge out his own eyes, while his hair and skin turned pale. Moments later, he was dead. Quickly, they broke out every kind of divination spell they had at hand, and managed to detect an evil aura lingering in the area, as well as a strong leftover of conjuration. Conjuration? That meant some kind of force or creature had been brought here from another location. Rakim quickly pointed out something else. When they found the screaming hobo, he was yelling about worms and bugs, and actually he looked extremely terrified. Knowledge roll. Something is lingering at the back of his head, but he can't quite take a hold of it. He announced he needs to take a trip back to Katapesh to consult the libraries there. The player actually had a pretty good idea of what was going on, but he kept the metagame out of it. Still, when things like this happen, I tend to allow a knowledge check with a hard DC to allow the character to get a moment of inspiration, letting the player use a bit of meta-knowledge, but only if I notice the party is stuck and the character actually has a chance of having heard something related. So, Rakim the Sonk takes a leave of absence from Saltspit to visit Katapesh, where he meets up with a fellow Verandi. Rakim was born in Jalmaray, one of the impossible kingdoms of Verdra, who helped him gain entry to the old archives of the Grand Lodge of the Golden Peacock, one of the oldest civil organizations in the city, and keeper of quite a vast collection of books and scrolls, most of which were donated by the many members of the Tea and Crumpets, or Coffee and Dates, society of well-off gentlemen with large turbans. Searching the archives, he finally stumbles on the kind of information he was after. Long story short, Rakim clears up his suspicions. It isn't ghosts that came through the portal, but night hags, denizens of the deep ethereal, that hunt the souls and dreams of mortals to barter them with nameless entities or engorge them themselves. He gets back to Saltspit, and as it turns out, he came prepared this time and bought a lamp that emitted the effective dimensional anchor in the infamous dark stalls of Katapesh. The party stumbles upon a group of night hags. Chapter 5. Well, hello there. Battle ensues for a while until they manage to subdue and capture one of the hags. Zone of Truth in place, They get the old lady talking, and she reveals what's going on. The splitting of the rift resulted in an intermittent portal, opening between the salt mine and the deep ethereal, which quickly drove the attention of the night hags wandering there. After, quote-unquote, smelling the mortals on the other end, most importantly mortals that could have dreams, they went through and began hunting the sleepers for their dreams. But dreams themselves are not as in high demand in the great beyond as nightmares are, since the latter can be used to brew quite nasty things, while the former will mostly net you unicorns and candy rainbows. And so the night hags have been planting motes of fear and horror in the heads of their victims, waiting for them to grow into full-fledged nightmares, and later returning to quite literally harvest them. At first, the party was troubled. Night hags are not stuff you often play along with, and truth be told, there were some concerns of, people having such horrible nightmares that they died in their sleeps. But as I've come to expect from these guys, where there is a problem, there is an opportunity. And for these guys, opportunities mean business. And also usually shifts towards evil alignments. I swear these guys are good people in real life. So there they are, when Hassan looks at Valenar, and I notice both are thinking the same thing. My good, lady, we have a proposition, goes the rogue with his eyes looking like money signs. What comes out of the resulting conversation, which at first was met with hostility, but after they used, rather foolishly, but served the purpose, allowed the night hag to read their thoughts, and realised they were being honest, was the following. Saltspit would provide, quote-unquote, plenty of fertile ground for the hags to plant their nightmares, and harvesting would be then allowed to proceed at certain designated locations to minimize exposure to fear by the general population, for which the hags would pay monetary compensations. Hassan took the issue to Prince Osman. He knew the guy was extremely flexible with his morals when it came to money. And while at first he was a bit troubled, when the rogue began explaining his plan, which basically consisted of, we'll make money, lots of it, the Katapeshi noble was quick to jump in. The rest of that session was spent working on the operational aspects. First, the quote-unquote pots, term used to refer to the people they'd be renting out to the hags to plant their nightmares, would be taken from the prison of Kandasar. The prince had family connections to one of the most important judges in the city, which in turn had a sway over the prison's overseer, in exchange for payment. Prisoners would be regularly hauled from Kandasar to Saltspit, under the pretext that the city was being paid for sending prisoners as slave force to the mines in exchange for funds that would be, of course, spent in stuff like orphanages and metropolitan beautification. If we consider hookers for the overseer as quote-unquote orphans and the new palace as beautification. Once in Saltspit, the prisoners would be put to work on the salt operation. Estimates had it that with the remaining salt, the mine should remain functional for about 4 more months. The hags would plant the fear motes during the night, when the prisoners are sent to sleep in bunkhouses kept a mile away from the town to avoid anyone noticing anything. The excuse was that the prisoners were dangerous, and the administration was worried about the safety of the salt spitooners. The people bought it quickly, particularly now that the white woes had stopped and they could get back to their normal lives. Now, the party requested the hags to prepare a control test, which consisted of 5 poor sods that were chained to a rock far away from the town, and implanted with fear motes of differing magnitudes. As the hags explained during one of the meetings, the fear motes were produced from horrible patchwork memories they fished out of the waters of the river Styx. The river steals away the memories of those that touch it, and those memories linger there for endless years, sometimes mixing up and resulting in thoughts and fears that would give an oincloth the chills, and could potentially make extremely powerful ones. However, for a nightmare to be worth it in the far-off markets of the plains, they had to be properly cultivated and grown as naturally as possible. Thus they often used fear motes to lower magnitudes on humans to avoid the risk of sudden death before the nightmare is ripe for harvesting. These test subjects would help properly appreciate the rates of degeneration, which was important since, as Valenar pointed out, the prisoners should be put back to work in the salt operation while the nightmares grew, which in turn would let them cut down the costs on hired labour and slave purchases. The price they agreed to pay for each prisoner was substantially less than the average price of a strong slave in the flesh markets of Katapesh. However, they also wanted to know how quickly the subject would begin to show signs of madness that could endanger the operation or blow the cover. Second, there was the matter of an extra-dimensional consultant. Even though the hags had shown a lot of interest in the deal, they were still night hags, and you don't trust night hags. Recalling the events that led to this whole thing in the first place, the severing of the rift, the party sought to contact Emir Kassan bin Fashir, the jewel trader, who Sheikh ibn Shapur used as a contact to get Dao to send his elementals to the other side of the rift. Their idea was to get Emir on their side. With money, of course, works better than any enchantment spell. Valinar prepared a few of those just in case, though, in order to use his contact with the Dao and find someone outside that could serve as a middleman with the hags. As it turned out, the Emir himself was a Dao, long ago banished from the elemental plane of Earth. And after a pretty fun encounter, the Emir is supposed to be extremely quirky and quaint, and the players went along with it to create a scene that would better fit a Terry Gilliam movie. They got him on his side. He never really had an issue with them to begin with, since he had no interest in the salt business. He was just repaying favours to Sheikh ibn Shapur. The Emir agreed to pull strings within the Great Dismal Delve, the main Dao settlement in the elemental plane of Earth. Pretty much a continent-sized maze of mines and palaces carved out from rubies as big as mountains, and got working on organising a formal meeting between the characters, the hags and his advisors, which took place the following week. The hag called Isna became the official representative of the Nightmare Snatchers. During the meeting, the party got to set down more concrete rules regarding payment. Since the hags didn't usually handle actual money, stolen souls and dreams being their coinage instead, they would exchange those for gems, through one of the Emir's contacts in the Great Dismal Delve. The gems would be then smuggled into Katapesh through the Emir's mines, which, as mentioned before, produce absolutely nothing, instead being a cover-up for a portal to the elemental plane of Earth, through which he gets his goods, and traded at the Magnificent Pavilion, the most important jewelry shop in the city owned by the Emir, where they would get converted into hard cash by selling the gems as usual. That way, everyone got what they wanted. The hags got the nightmares they traded with dark entities from beyond reality. The Emir got the income resulting from the soul trade, which are in great demand and by both the Nine Hells and the Abyss in their endless blood war. And the party got the money from the gem sale. The prince would in turn earn his participation from the gold income from the gems, and handle the bribes to his cousin the judge. The prison overseer would be getting paid directly by the Saltspit Trading Company. They had to find a proper name for it when they started the cover-up for the prisoner for cash, disguised as administrative facilitations, while the money that was being paid to the city as part of the deal was used to bribe the various tax collectors, bureaucrats, and guards involved in keeping the whole thing quiet.